Hello everyone, I am Tiffany the intern and this is On the Road Worship. Last week we talked about Jacob's dream while on the run for his life and how we need to remember how we have seen God working. We also talked about how God will remain faithful and won't abandon us in difficult circumstances or when we sin. In this week's story, Jacob has arrived in the town where his mother is from. He meets Rachel, with whom he falls in love and finds out that she is the daughter of his uncle Laban. So he goes to live with Laban, just like his mother wanted. After being there and working for a month, Laban asks Jacob how much he should be paid for his work. Now, Laban had two daughters. Leah, the older daughter, has poor or weak eyes, but Rachel, the younger one, with whom Jacob has fallen in love, is very beautiful. So Jacob suggests that Laban give him the younger daughter, Rachel's, hand in marriage in exchange for 7 years of work. Laban agrees, saying that he would rather give her to Jacob than to any other man. So Jacob works for 7 years, and at the end of that time period, Jacob requests Laban hold up his end of the bargain and give Rachel to him in marriage. So Laban prepares a wedding banquet and invites everyone. However, Laban gives Leah to Jacob instead of Rachel as promised. So the morning after the wedding, Jacob wakes up and realizes that he has been given the wrong daughter. Jacob demands to know why Laban has broken his promise. Laban then explains that in his culture, the younger daughter is never given in marriage before the older one. So he offers to then give Rachel to Jacob after the wedding week with Leah is completed in exchange for another 7 years of work. Not seeing another way, Jacob agrees. So he does get to marry Rachel after his wedding week with Leah, but must work another 7 years for Laban. If you remember from last week, we talked about God's promise to Jacob to always be with him and to protect him. However, he didn't promise Jacob that things would be easy and everything would always go his way. Sometimes it's easy to confuse those things. God is faithful and won't abandon us. However, bad things happen because of our own sins, the sins of others, and the fact that we live in a fallen world. Knowing Jacob's past of cheating both his father and his brother, I will admit that it is slightly satisfying to see the trickster get tricked himself. And the reality is that there are consequences for sin. And those consequences can extend to other people in our lives. In Jacob's story, Leah lives with knowing that her husband loves his other wife more than he loves her. However, God is forgiving and brings good out of bad circumstances. And God is still faithful to his promises. In Jacob's case, God promised that Jacob's descendants would be many and would serve and bless many people, and they did. Though through Jacob's wives and their servants, the heads of the 12 tribes of Israel were born. Another thing that stood out to me in this story was that there are similarities and differences to another courtship that started at a well. A few weeks ago, we talked about Abraham sending his servant to find a wife for his son Isaac, and Jacob too meets his wife at a well. But the main difference we see is that the servant immediately prayed and asked God's guidance and worshipped God when God answered. It appears that Jacob, however, was more self-serving in his well encounter with Rachel. It also seems that Jacob was more reliant on his own strength and cleverness to get what he wanted. I think one thing we can learn from this is that our plans and confidence in those plans must be placed solely in the Lord and not in our own strength. There are a few questions below for you to discuss, and feel free to leave any questions you may have in the comments. Take care, everyone.